Guys, we're back for another exciting episode of the Hashtag Wednesday Match Play, and I am pumped for tonight's show. And I have to be honest, I have not seen the movie yet, but I've watched the trailer about 30 times. I've read everything I can get my hands on about this. I've seen several interviews with the guy that's on the show tonight, and I'm going to go see it this weekend. He's talked me into it. He twisted my arm, because I actually thought the movie came out later this month, not earlier this month. So the movie's already out. But tonight, I am excited to bring the executive producer from Tommy's Honor onto the show. And this is a movie that's made a lot of noise in the news lately because, one, it's the first golf movie that's come out in a long time, but it looks to be really well done. And there's so much history behind this story. And Keith Bank is with us. And versus me trying to tell the story, he's obviously been there. He's read the book. He's been a part of this movie for the last 3-4 years. So, Keith, first off, welcome to the show. And tell us a little bit about what the movie is and kind of how you got involved with it.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me on. I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, this has been a labor of love for myself and my partners for quite some time. I've been involved in the project for about 3.5 years. My producing partner, Jim Kreutzer, and I had never met before, and Jim had gone over to Scotland on a bucket list trip with an ill friend who was recently diagnosed with ALS. And as part of their pre-trip reading, they had to read Tommy's Honor. And when Jim came back from his trip, he said to himself, I can't believe no one's ever thought to make a movie about this book. It's such an unbelievable story. Why hasn't someone done this? And he optioned the rights to the book and spent about 1.5 years trying to pull various elements of the project together. And he and I met through a mutual friend, and he asked me if I would help him try to get the project financed and across the finish line. And I had produced the film 28 years ago, never planned on doing another one again. It's certainly not my day job. It's not what I do for a living, but I just thought the book and the script were so fantastic. And so ended up living over in Scotland for 2.5 months, producing the film and executive producing the film. And I think we made a great finished product that I think will be very appealing not only to golfers but non-golfers alike. The film has tested incredibly well with women and non-golfers, and because there's just so many universal elements to the story. While old Tom and young Tom Morris were the founding fathers of the modern game of golf and are responsible for so many innovations and interesting aspects to their lives and careers, there's also a lot of thematic elements that are similar to many other aspects of life: class struggle, father-son relationships, love stories, tragedy, competition, pressure, social mores. So all these things come about on the screen, and I think people will really be engaged by this story that's known by very few. Even the most passionate golfers know very little about this.
Well, that's really cool, and it does come at a good time. So you mentioned that you lived in Scotland. I'm headed over to Scotland in a few months, and I'm actually going to be in St. Andrews playing the Old Course, and I'm excited about that. And that brings me to this next question. Now, the movie was obviously shot over there, but not all of it was shot at the Old Course, from what I understand. So where did you shoot it, and did you get to shoot anything on the Old Course? Kind of how did they work with you in that process?
So the film was shot in 33 days, 50 different locations across Scotland, interiors and exteriors. We used 4 different golf courses. And the final scene in the film takes place a famous match at St. Andrews at the Old Course, but we realized early on it's way too manicured. The R&A building doesn't look like it would have looked like 150 years ago. There have been additions to the building. It's weathered. So we actually found a piece of ground about 30 minutes from St. Andrews in a place called Balcarres on the sea. And we actually hired a greenskeeper from St. Andrews to come out there. We built our own 2 golf holes. We built the Swoken Burn and the Swoken Bridge, and built 2 walls of the R&A clubhouse from some reference images we had from the 1870s. The rest of the links road is filled in with digital effects, and I think when you see the film, you won't be able to tell that. It looks like you're right back there in the time period, and it was a lot of fun. The production, we had, I think, 30 tractor trailers following us around from location to location. We had over 1,000 extras, 57 speaking parts. And so, all the hair and makeup and wigs and costumes, it was quite an undertaking, major military maneuver. But I think when people see it up on screen, they're going to be blown away.
Well, that's really cool to bring such an old story and the amount of history that's worked into that film to be able to bring it to the modern day screen where you think about all the special effects and you talk about, the costumes and the wigs and stuff that, I mean, based on the trailer, and the trailer will be linked down below. And the trailer, you don't think that it's anything other than just looking through the eyes of what it used to be. So from what I've seen thus far until I see the movie this weekend, bravo on being able to bring all of that together. And it's crazy that you shot that in such a short time. Like when you said that you had been working on the film for 3.5 years, I thought it was like 2 years of filming, but no, that's like a month of filming. So that's really cool.
People think making a movie is just shooting it. There's years of preparation that go into it, raising the money, pre-production, casting, hiring all your crew. And then once you shoot the film, you think, wow, okay, we made a film. Then you have to, once it's in the can, as they say, you have to edit it. You have to produce music. You have to cut it to the final length of the film so it'll play in theaters and be appealing to people and not bore them and be too long. And then once you have that done, then you have to take it under your arm and go shop it around to find the right distribution partner. And then once you do that, you got to figure out how to market it and how to sell it and what messages, and create the poster and create the trailer and create the TV commercials. And there's a lot more than meets the eye, and people don't realize. In 3.5 years, believe it or not, is probably close to record time for getting a feature film made. Many take 5-10 years to get done or more. So we were pleased by how quickly we got it done, and we were really honored. We won the BAFTA award for Best Feature Film of the Year in Scotland, which is their equivalent of the Oscars, and we've gotten some really nice reviews. So it's nice to see people appreciate the work and hard effort you put into something like this.
Oh, that's awesome. So then obviously the initial response has been positive. So has there been any negative response? Because I mean, my God, what I'm reading is just, this is like a perfect golf movie, and people are calling this the next great golf movie. And I look at golf movies like Caddyshack was before my time. It's still a fantastic film. Happy Gilmore, 10 Cup. I'm going to say The Legend of Bagger Vance was a good movie. But this is going to be, from what I understand, the next great golf movie. So talk a little bit about the initial response that you've seen from those reviews and what you're hearing about the film.
We've generally gotten very, very positive reviews. Almost, I'd say 90 to 100% from people who have seen the film. So, I mean, I have thousands of emails from friends, strangers, and everything in between, just saying how much they appreciate us having made the film and how much they loved it. Movie critics are a different breed. We've had generally very positive reviews. We've had some negative ones from people that, in my opinion, honestly, are just quite clueless. They don't understand. I mean, there are a few people that have said, the golf swings don't look realistic. We worked so hard on making sure they were realistic and good. We hired the honorary head professional from the R&A to work with our actors. I mean, they were spot on. But like this one particular critic knows nothing about golf and made in my opinion, a very silly comment, because she didn't realize that the swing 150 years ago was radically different than it is today. They used hickory clubs, were very heavy. It was a lot more leg action. It was a lot longer and loopier. They were hitting gutta percha balls, which if you ever tried, they're like hitting a rock. I mean, we actually did a really neat 30-minute behind-the-scenes piece on the making of the film, which people can see on our website at tommyshonor.com. And we were fortunate enough to get Jordan Spieth and his father to dress up in the garb of the Morris era and play with hickory sticks and the gutta percha balls and wearing the wool tweed suits. And, Jordan was like trying to swing and saying, man, now I know why they followed through like this in these suits. You can't move this way. And, I think his parting shot on the interview was, I gained just a bit more respect for those boys back in the day after trying to do this.
Now, the music is extremely fitting from what I've heard in both the trailer and some other stuff that I've seen from the film. Who produced the movie, and kind of what was your journey in finding the person to do the score for this film?
You're talking about who produced the music?
Mm-hmm.
We were very fortunate. Our director, Jason Connery, son of Sir Sean, had a friend named Christian Henson, who he'd known for 30 years or so. And he's a composer and a musician. And Jason brought him to us and basically said, here's the guy that I want to score the film. And we listened to a bunch of his tracks and what he had done. And, we took a little bit of a chance in the fact that, he's not a huge name that everybody would know and say, oh, so-and-so scored your film. But I think he did just an amazing, amazing job. And actually, we just released the soundtrack 2 weeks ago. So it's available on iTunes and other places. And it's really a neat score that he put together for this film. It's, you know, when you see it, it really fits the action.
So Jordan, that was a cool story, and I have not seen much of that, so I'm gonna have to go look that up. I'm good friends with his teaching pro, so that's really cool that you got to work with him. Any other tour pros involved, LPGA, PGA, etc.? Are they behind the movie? Have you done anything else with any other?
No,
pros?
nobody else is really involved in the movie per se, but we've gotten just incredible feedback. You know, Ben Crenshaw has watched the movie a ton of times and loves it and gave us some great quotes. And Jim Nance loves the film. And Jim Furyk hosted our premiere at the World Golf Hall of Fame a few weeks ago and loved the film. And you know, pretty much everybody that's seen it. I mean, we've gotten it in front of, you know, old stars from Tony Jacklin to modern day players. And, you know, I think they've all really reacted to the story, the realism that's up on the screen, and just the wow factor of, wow, I didn't know this is how our game really got started. And these were the guys that were responsible for a lot of the, you know, things we take for granted today.
So what was the biggest challenge in filming this? I mean, obviously the you know, the suits and the just the accuracy of the clothing and so forth. But what was the biggest challenge in producing a film like this?
Well, one of our biggest concerns going in was, you know, in Scotland, as they say, you can get all 4 seasons in one round of golf. You know, it can be summer, winter, spring, and fall all together. And we were concerned when we shot the golf scenes, you know, were we going to get dumped on every day? And we got just incredibly fortunate. The 33-day filming schedule, 18 days were inside and 15 were outside filming mostly golf scenes. And we had one 15-minute rain delay the entire time shooting the film, which anybody that knows Scotland, it's like they don't even believe it. And they say that's not physically possible. And then one of the scenes in the film is a match that was intended to be played in the rain. And it was a beautiful day, so we had to bring in rainmaking equipment and make it pour. So, you know, that was kind of interesting. But, you know, again, everything has to work like clockwork. When you have 33 days and the budget we had to work with, you know, everything's got to work. You can't afford to miss your days. You can't afford to fall behind schedule. You can't afford to have an epidemic of weather or a key actor breaking his leg, or, you know, I mean, there's a myriad of things that could happen. And fortunately, we came in on time and on budget, and I think got all of the shots we wanted to get. And when we pieced it together in the editing room, I think it comes together really nicely.
So the hashtag Wednesday Match Play is presented by Eat Sleep Golf, and the team over there always sends a whole bunch of good questions, and this one is a good one because I didn't realize how much golf you play, but it's apparently you play a lot, and you've played a lot of the top 100 courses in the U.S. So what are some of your most memorable courses that you played, and what are some that are missing from your bucket list?
So I've been fortunate that, you know, I set a goal for myself. Actually, I started a big charity golf tournament for the American Cancer Society 20 some odd years ago. And a couple of years into it, was trying to figure out a way to raise even more money. And one of the ideas I came up with was to get people to donate hosted foursomes at the Golf Digest top 100 courses in the country. And I think at our peak, we had 56 of the Golf Digest 100 in our auction, and we sold $390,000 worth of golf courses one year at our event. And I started buying some of them, going on some trips, meeting some really interesting people, and said, hey, this would be kind of a neat hobby to try to knock them all off. So I'm at 99. The only one I'm missing is that course that happens to host the Masters tournament every year down in Augusta, Georgia. But hopefully I'll be able to play that one day soon. And I'm at 70 on my world top 100 list, so I got 30 more to knock off there. But it's really, for me, it's more about just meeting people and having neat experiences and seeing the differences between you know, courses and customs and locker rooms and clubhouses and food, and it's just the whole experience is really neat. I've made a lot of great friends along the way, so which is what it's all about.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, if any of those courses that are still left and the international perspective are Troon facilities, let me know, and I'd be happy to do whatever I can to help get you on those. Great. Now, tell me a little bit about the cast and how you pick. I mean, you got some pretty big name actors in this film. So how did you pick who you wanted, and how did you plan out who was going to play what characters, and just talk about the cast a little bit?
So again, our director, Jason Connery, had very set ideas about who he wanted to cast for certain of the roles, and he always from the get-go thought Peter Mullen would be perfect for Old Tom. Peter's a very well-known Scottish actor, not so well-known over here in the States, but he's just got a great persona and kind of looks the part. And we approached Peter. He was available, and he and Jason early on just hit it off famously. I think they knew each other a little bit from the past. So that was kind of the first piece to the puzzle. The second piece was casting young Tom, who the film was really mostly about. And, we had to have someone that could play a 15-year-old and also play a 24-year-old, and who was somewhat athletic and, had those boyish good looks. And, because young Tom was the Tiger Woods of his day. He was this dashing young man that all the women swooned over, and longest hitter and all that stuff. And we were fortunate that Jack Loudon, who's a real up-and-coming star, he's been in a bunch of stuff to date, and people probably recognize him, his face, but maybe not as much the name. But he was one of the lead actors in the 10-part miniseries War and Peace, and he was in a film called 71, and he's in Dunkirk, which is coming out next month, which is a big Christopher Nolan film. But I think he steals the show in our film. I mean, I think he is just fantastic. I mean, everybody that sees it says, wow, that guy's got the it factor, and really believe he does. And then the female lead, we had to find somebody that, would play well with him as his love interest. And also, I don't want to give away the story and give away the movie, but she's got a very diverse role. And Ophelia Lovibond is an English actress that many people in the States may know from the TV show Elementary, that she's got a big role in. But she was also in Guardians of the Galaxy and Man Up and a few other films over here. And again, just a charming young woman, and they played off each other fantastically. And one kind of funny story is the very first scene we shot on the very first day. And for people that don't know, you don't shoot the movie in chronological order. You shoot the scenes all different times. And the very first scene we shot the first day was when the two of them get married. And they had never met each other before. And they met on the set for the first day, and 5 minutes later, they're getting married. So it was, it was kind of interesting that you see the talent that they have to pull that off. And then the head of the RNA, Alexander Boothby, we wanted someone who really had gravitas, who had weight, who could really play the role. And Sam Neill from Jurassic Park fame happened to be available, liked the script, and came on. And that was kind of the last piece to the puzzle of the four lead actors. And then a lot of the supporting roles, actors and actresses just did an amazing job. And again, most of the people would not be household names, but we wanted it to be mainly Scottish. We wanted it to be authentic. We did not want to bring over American actors and try to have them put on a fake Scottish accent. And I think when you see the film, it'll come off that, wow, this is very authentic.
So the entire process from start to finish, what did you personally learn? I mean, surely you're learning things all the time as you go, but what are some of the key things that you picked up along the way?
Well, I think that, I'm involved in a lot of different businesses and companies, and I think, they're all pretty much about people and how people work together as a team. And, again, Jason Connery is the director of the film that really is the main creative responsibility, took the time and energy to meet every extra and create a, harmonious set, which isn't always the case on film shoots. So, I think he did a great job of setting the tone. And, my co-producing partners, again, we all came at this from different angles and had different personal interests as to why we wanted to make the project. But I think we all viewed this as a passion project. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't about glory. It was about, doing something that we all could be proud of, giving something back to the game that we all love so much, trying to create something that would interest people around the world, not just in the US, and expose people to this great story that people know, so very little about. So I think when you have a team that has common goals, it makes it much easier to get to the finish line. Were there issues and challenges along the way? Of course. And did everybody always see eye to eye? No. But at the end of the day, I think we all worked together very well to put together a good finished product. And the other thing that I think I learned is, the film business is a very, very tough. I mean, not that I knew it already. It's a very tough, challenging business, and you're at the whim of public opinion and critics and the distribution system. And there's lots of things that have to fall exactly into place, because I think the statistics are something like 1 out of every 10 movies that get made ever see the light of day in a movie theater. And of those, something like 1 out of 10 ever make any money. So it's it's a very challenging. So you have a 1 out of 100 chance if you believe those stories. So it's a very challenging industry. It tests you on a lot of different levels. But again, I had some great supportive partners that all brought interesting things to the table. I met along the way Ken Whitney, who was our lead investor. I met him through the first tee, through some common relationships we had, and he felt a super strong passion for the project, and came at it in much the same way that I did. And Jim, my producing partner, who kind of came up with the idea to do this, came at it from another angle, and he had been involved in some other film projects. Bob Last, who is Scottish, and as a Scottish-based producer, brought a lot of the relationships with the crew and the locations and knowing the ins and outs of making a film in Scotland, which you needed to have to be successful there. So, everybody brought something else to the table, and we all coalesced to put together, I think, a pretty special project.
That's really cool. Well, it's obvious that you've got. I loved what you said about having it be Scottish actors versus trying to bring American actors over and to have them try to put on a Scottish face. So now I'm all about tradition. And when I play golf, I wear pants. I button my golf shirt to the top. I'm very I take my hat off when I shake hands. I'm like, it's weird that a millennial is a traditionalist. Now, how important was tradition to you in the filming of this movie? Obviously, with the history and going back to the foundation of the game, was tradition a big component of the filming of this movie?
Tradition was important, but it's really tradition in a much different sense. Back then, the game was much more about gambling and brawling and drinking and carousing, and basically, the gamblers controlled the situation. The bettors would bring the boys from Musselborough to play against the boys from St. Andrews or Prestwick or North Berwick or wherever the case might be. And one of the real neat things that comes about in the film is young Tom is backed by these wealthy individuals, and they held all the money, and then if they won, they got a little piece of the winnings. And young Tom said, wait a minute, people aren't coming to watch you gamble on me. They're coming to watch me play. So from now on, I'm going to hold the money, and I'm going to give you a little piece of the winnings. And he literally was the first professional athlete of all time. There was no such thing as professional baseball, football, basketball. And he's the first guy that played golf or any sport for a living. His father, old Tom, in addition to playing golf and was the caddy master, the greenkeeper, the agronomist, the ball maker, the club maker. He had to do a lot of other things to be able to support his family. And Tommy was such an iconic figure and so popular, he was able to make a living just off of playing golf. So, these modern era athletes and golfers owe a big debt of gratitude to him, because he was the first guy to say, basically, pay me for what I'm worth.
That's awesome. And now look at it. I saw a stat the other day, 45 guys on the tour have made $1 million this year alone. It's crazy how much money that these guys are making to play golf. And I'm just a little sad that I didn't, get good enough to be able to be one of them. So, well,
right.
Hey, I got one more question before we jump to the back nine, but I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I didn't tell you before, but it was going to fly by, but we're almost at 30 minutes, but I got to know now, you've got this movie. It's done. It's doing well. It's in the box office. I'm going to go see it this weekend. And it's an awesome story. Another movie coming? And if so, is it going to be a golf movie, or are you going back to just playing golf?
Honestly, from my perspective, probably not another movie. My day job is in the venture capital industry, and I invest in a lot of golf and sports-related businesses and other types of businesses, and I enjoy that. This was really about this one special project for me. It wasn't about that I'm in love with the film business and I'm dying to make 20 movies. It was really more about this project and telling this story. So you never say never, but I'd say it's probably rather unlikely that another film's in my near future, or any future, maybe.
I dig that. Okay, so the back nine. It's just 9 fun golf-specific questions. You're a golfer. A couple of these are about you. One of them, and we haven't told you mentioned the name earlier, Tiger. One of the questions that I ask on every episode of the show relates to Tiger. But you ready for your back nine?
I'm ready.
So surely you did, but have you ever tried hitting golf balls with the hickory shafts?
I tried it for the first time, and I was over there when we were teaching our actors how to use them, and it is extremely difficult.
That's awesome. So what is your favorite golf course? You've played a bunch of them. Is there one that sticks out as your favorite?
I honestly don't have a top one. I'd say my top 5 are probably Oakmont, Shinnecock, Cypress Point, Pine Valley, and maybe Friar's Head. I'd say those are probably my top 5.
Pine Valley, now that's a special place right there. Now, you were over there for a couple of months. Where did you stay? Did you stay in a hotel? Did you have a house? Like, what was your living?
We rented an apartment where the producers kind of stayed and came back to in Edinburgh. We were there for most of the shoot. Came back at night, and then for about 8 or 9 days, we stayed at the Old Course Hotel, actually in St. Andrews, when we were filming in and around St. Andrews proper, and that was quite a treat. We were treated extremely nice by the people over there, and it's a gorgeous property right on the Old Course. So it was really, really special.
Now, this is not one of the questions, but I'm curious because I'm going to be there soon. The Jigger Inn, is it what I'm expecting, just to be this awesome little bar? Like, is it cool?
I don't know what you're expecting, but it's a pretty neat place.
That's what I'm expecting, that right there. So what is your favorite pub in St. Andrews? Did you have a couple that you liked more than others?
Well, the hangout that, a lot of people tend to know is right across from the Old Course, and it actually recently just traded hands, but that's where a lot of the a lot of the travelers tend to hang out. I actually don't drink, so I can enjoy the atmosphere and I can enjoy the people and the camaraderie, but I'm probably not the right guy to ask that question.
So besides this movie, what is your favorite golf movie?
I think from a drama perspective, I think the best one to date has been The Greatest Game Ever Played. And from a comedy perspective, I think probably Caddyshack.
And if you ever want to see Tin Cup, just turn on the Golf Channel because it plays like 6 times a day on the Golf Channel.
The fun thing's that's going to be our film, because the Golf Channel bought the rights to the film for 10 years, and it's going to be one of those movies that everyone says, "Do I have to watch it for the 137th time?" But that'll be a nice honor to have.
That's really cool. Now, in all of this, you had to have had a single memory that you're bringing back from Scotland. What is the one thing that you experienced in your time over there that just sticks out above everything else?
I think it's really the people. I think they're really an interesting nationality, and very proud and down to earth, what you see, what you get type of people. And I had never lived in a foreign country for 2.5 months. I've traveled and been places, but when you live somewhere and you have a car and you have an apartment, it's a lot different than being on a vacation. And just immersing myself in the culture and meeting the people, I think that's probably what I'll remember the most.
So we didn't talk about my obsession with Tiger. I'm his biggest fan, self-proclaimed, and you can see him above me over here. He's all around the room. Now, do you think he breaks the record? Why or why not?
The record for most back surgeries?
You think he's already got that record? The majors record.
The other record. I admire everything he's done as a player and a golfer, and in his prime, he was probably the most dominant athlete of all time in any sport. But from all appearances, it looks like it's going to be quite challenging. I'd be surprised if he beats Jack's record. But you never say never, and health obviously comes a lot into play here. But age starts to enter the equation, health and everything else. So if I had to bet, I'd say I'd bet against.
But you didn't say no, like just out of the gate. So now your comment about the back surgeries, that's pretty funny. I'm gonna use that in the future. And your final question of your hashtag Wednesday match play is, what's next? I mean, you're just getting on the run with this movie, but what's next for you and this film?
The film is going to hopefully play for a while longer here in the States. We're opening in a bunch of new cities this weekend, actually. We're opening in Raleigh-Durham, and Greensboro, and Honolulu, and Tucson, and Albuquerque, and Rochester, and Syracuse, and Boise, Idaho, and a bunch of places that we didn't open in the initial slew of theaters. And then on May 12th, it opens in Canada. And then in late June, early July, we open in the UK and likely Australia. And hopefully a bunch of other territories. And after it finishes its theatrical run, it'll go to pay-per-view, so people can go on their cable system and download to rent or download to buy. Then it goes to DVD and Blu-ray, and people can buy for their collection to watch it. And after that, it eventually will go to the Golf Channel a couple years from now. In 2019, they'll have the rights for it for 10 years, and people can watch it on the Golf Channel. But we strongly encourage people to get out and see it in the theater. There's nothing like seeing it on the big screen. It's a totally different experience than seeing it on TV or in another medium or on your computer. It's so different. It has such a different impact. So there's no better way to see a film than in the theater.
Hey, you sold me. I'm going on Saturday. Hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was awesome. I'll make sure that this gets shared to Facebook and Twitter and to the Google Plus Golf community and all over the place. Best of luck to you, and I really am excited to see this weekend, and I'll make sure to shoot you an email whenever I see it because I know I'm going to love it, and just it ties so well into the fact that I'm going to Scotland in a few months. But thanks again for coming on the show, and as always on the hashtag Wednesday Match Plays, you have to remember to eat, sleep, golf.